Welcome to All Business Media TV. I'm your host, Rick Delgado, and joining us today is Sybil Baker, International Best Selling Author, registered nurse, licensed massage therapist, and certified pranic healing instructor. You can reach her online at her website, comprehensivevitality.com, or give her a call, 614-580-8218. Sybil, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks, Rick, for having me here. How are you?
Well, thank you for taking the time and coming into our studio and getting to meet each other for the first time.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, it's great to put a face to the voice.
It is, yes.
So thank you for joining us. Now, before we get rolling here, Sybil, I know you do a lot of things with Comprehensive Vitality. First off, how long have you been in business with Comprehensive Vitality?
The official name, Comprehensive Vitality, I've only been in business for 3 years this month.
Okay, really? Oh, congratulations.
But my practice has been, as a solopreneur, growing into this for 20 years now.
Right,
so.
Okay. And now take us, what do you do? Like when somebody says, okay, Sybil, I'm giving you a call, and I want to find out what Comprehensive Vitality is all about. How do you explain it, and what kind of things do you help them with?
Well, Comprehensive Vitality came out of an experience that I had that recognized that people have given over their empowerment for their health to the healthcare system.
Right.
And so what I was trying to understand is how can I provide a service for people to meet their health goals, but also to re-empower them, to reconnect with that vitality that they've lost, and then support them through their lifespan as they do that.
Right.
So that's where the name came from. Okay. So we look at different aspects. So we look at body work, we look at energy healing, we use essential oils, we have other technologies that we use to help support healing and revitalizing the body.
Right.
So that's sort of where that all came from.
Okay.
So, but in general, my whole life has sort of been about healing. Even when I was a little kid, so we used to heal the family pets, right? So
even if they didn't need it, let's just wrap them up in bandages, and I don't care if he walks funny.
Well, we didn't really go that far, but yeah, something like that. So, and then I went into nursing to help people. It's really interesting because I was a med tech first, and then my husband was going to get a job, and I thought, well, I can't get this specialized job, so I can go into nursing and then get a job. So I went into nursing, and then when I was in nursing, I was introduced to this energy stuff by a medical student one night, and that sort of got my brain kind of pried open from the Western medical narrowness to start thinking, well, maybe there's something besides medicine and needles that cause pain relief. Right. And so then I went on and got my master's in nursing, and I was working as a clinical nurse specialist with a high-risk pregnant population in labor and delivery and pregnancy population problems. And so what we did is decided that people on bed rest really needed some kind of physical support. So if you've ever been sick or on bed rest, your body gets kind of sore and it gets kind of weak, and you just you need some help.
Yeah, you gotta move.
You gotta move. So we couldn't let them move, right? They were fixed in bed rest for sometimes months. Right. So we asked physical therapy to come and help them out, and they wouldn't because they were pregnant. So it was decided that I could go to massage school. Nurses can do massage, so I was to go to massage school, set up a program, and then run that program. So that was great. I actually had never thought about massage before. Went to massage school, graduated massage school, and my job got downsized. Yeah. So what I did was I hung out my shingle, and I've been doing massage ever since.
So that's pretty much what kind of, I guess, a lack of a better way to explain it, ended your nursing career was the fact that the job got downsized, but now you had this new skill. That's right. That you could offer out and actually help people feel better with. Right. So I was sitting on the curb with all my books, all my learning, and I'm like, okay, now what? Okay, well, hang out the shingle. So I did. That's interesting. And because now what you're doing now is more in the holistic field, right? Would that be a way to categorize it? Definitely natural healing, right? That's what I'm looking at. And a holistic is really a good word for it. So as I started with massage, what I learned is the body's really intelligent. Right? And you can't really stiff arm the body and tell it has to get better. And so I talk to the cells, and I ask them, what do they need? How can I help them? I mean, it's kind of comical, but I like to come up with pictures and images as I work. It's part of my, I don't know. Anyways, so then I talk to the body and I ask it, what does it need? Because sometimes it's just really been injured so bad, it's like it's just afraid in there. Right. Yeah. So you have to support it to what it needs. Sometimes it's just really stuck because it's misinformed. Sometimes there's disease, sometimes there's trauma that needs healed. But
So I learned that you can't stiff arm it. So I've just been seeking ways to work with the body and try to communicate with the body and assist the body in its own healing.
Right.
Because the body's really the healer. I'm not really the healer. I'm sort of the sidewalk supervisor. It says, hey guys, there's a pile of stuff there. Can you move it over there? You know, and it works pretty well.
Right.
So.
And it's interesting because you do come, from the Western medical background.
I
It's
do.
like, oh, well, let's face it, the way people look at things is you go to the doctor. The doctor, looks at you, after you've been waiting for an hour and a half, takes about 2 minutes to look at you, runs out, and then you're left with the nurse. But you've got a prescription. Go get this medicine. This will take away the pain. But that doesn't really address the problem of what's causing the pain, right?
Right. So there is a place for Western medicine. I really do support that. There is a place for drugs. There is a place for surgery and hospitalization. But I think that a lot of times if you can figure out what the body is trying to say, the thing that people do that is really interesting, I would say, is that what we've learned is that if there's pain, that we should cover it up.
Right.
Right. So you can take an analgesic or something to relieve the pain or something for inflammation, but it really covers it up. And the body's giving us a message that says something's not right here. And so we just keep covering it up and covering it up and covering it up or ignoring it.
Right.
And then eventually it's really yelling at us. And then we take some kind of action about it.
Right. And usually by that time it's too late.
Well, at least it's further down the road.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Because sometimes you end up with those diseases that they whispered. You'd be like, oh, did you hear about Aunt Marge? She has cancer.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, like you're saying, I almost equate it to like a house. You notice there's a little water damage. Just pull off that piece of wood and put a newer one up there. But you're not really addressing where did that water come from.
That's right.
What's causing that damage? Because, I've seen water damage, and we've had instances here in New York where you see water damage.
Yeah.
And it really does a number on the inside where you can't see it.
The structure. Yeah.
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 So now you've hung out your shingle and you've got your massage but you didn't stop there, right?
No, because one thing doesn't fix everything.
Right.
Right? So, and everybody's body responds to different things. So my search has been to find new and improved, you could say, but different ways to address the body and help its in healing, right? So when I first learned about energy healing, for example, which is a big staple actually of my practice, to think energetically about the body, that was really a stretch for me. And I remember going to grad school and my colleague would wave her arms around me and I was like big eyeballed and weirded out, But eventually I studied all that stuff and more. And what I learned is that really we are atoms and protons and neutrons and all those things. So we're really just electrical system, right? And we have an energy field just like the Earth has an energy field. And that energy field actually influences our visible physical, if you want to look at it that way. So when you can work in that energy template and you can help that be strong and sound, then the visible physical tends to follow.
Right. And now when you're talking about energy healing, as you had your skepticism when you first heard about it, right?
Yes.
Again, because of your background, and you're like, what the heck are you talking about?
That's right.
What is this hokey pokey stuff that you're trying to get me to believe in? But the research, I guess, is there, is starting to be shown that it can be a very good complement to regular medicine, Western medicine, what everybody's used to speed up healing too, right?
It really helped, I think, when you could go to the health fairs and see your aura, right? So you could see the electric field.
Right.
So then it became more real.
Can you see that?
Well, they have the Kirlian photography makes it possible to see it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't
So if you
know
go to the health fairs, the psychic fairs, you can get your aura reading done, right? So what we do, and when I teach pranic healing, we learn how to scan it so you can feel it. And so you can tell if it's balanced or imbalanced. And just like when you go to the acupuncturist, the acupuncturist is working in the energy field too, right? So the energy runs through our body like lymph moves through channels, blood moves through channels. The energy also runs through channels, which are called meridians, right? Meridians are nadis. And so what the acupuncturist does is put a needle in a channel and then either increase the rate of flow or decrease the rate of flow to balance it out, because basically our bodies have troubles when things get out of balance, right? So the same thing that we do in pranic healing is that we look for areas that are congested, which I like to use plumbing examples, right? So if your bathroom sink gets clogged up, the water stays on the top top of the
Yeah.
sink and doesn't run through.
And it
So
looks
same
gross,
way.
right.
Yeah, well, anyways, so it's stuck there. So that would be like congestion. So if we clean that all off, and then we make sure that that pipe is cleared, then we can put fresh energy in, and then the body would use that to heal itself.
Right. Now, explain how that energy healing works. And are you talking about Reiki or what?
Well,
what exactly are you talking about?
Ki is a Japanese word for life force energy.
Right.
What I practice and teach is pranic healing.
Pranic, but it's essentially in the same realm because you're talking about energy.
Right, because prana is the Sanskrit word for life force energy.
Okay. So now, when you're doing that, is that something where it's a hands-on thing where you're laying hands on someone, as they say?
It's similar, but we don't touch. It's a no-touch system.
It is, okay.
Yep, so we work in your energy body. So we work in the energy template, and what we do is if the body's sick, lots of times in the part of the energy body, which is called the outer aura, which is it's like your gas tank, for example, in your car, if it has holes or cracks in it, then no matter how much energy your body takes in, it leaks out.
Right.
So then it makes it hard to heal or hard to stay healed, right?
Okay.
So we seal all those holes and cracks, and then we have little exhaust pipes, just like on the car, that sometimes can get tangled up or bent, and then they can't exhaust properly, right? So then you get like a stack up of used up prana on one side, and then it can cause pain or it can cause things to happen too.
Right.
So we straighten out all the exhaust pipes, and then we have energy centers, which are called chakras, which are like power stations, right? So their job is to feed certain vital organs. So example, the one in the middle of the body is called solar plexus.
Okay.
And that's where we relate with the world.
Right.
So if you feel stressed or you feel anxious, where do you feel it? You feel it in your solar plexus, in your stomach area, right? So if you get stressed or anxious or irritated or angry, that's where it stacks up there. So we just clear out that energy, and then we put fresh prana in, and then the body uses that to heal.
All right.
So.
And now, what can you help people with something like that?
Well, it just depends, right? So there's a physical aspect.
Right.
So say you got a frozen shoulder, or say you've got a pain in your tooth, or a cut or a scrape or a bump or a bruise or headache, any of those things. We can just wave our hand, clear off the congested energy, and put fresh in and let the body use it.
Really, even with like an open wound like that, really?
Yeah, we do a lot of people actually surgically. So we treat them before surgery to make sure the body's intact, energy body's intact, and then whenever the surgery happens, it puts a leak in the body. So then afterwards we seal back up that leak, and we can help manage pain, we can help manage infection, and help the wound healing.
Oh, wow.
So it just seems to accelerate it, right?
Yeah,
So.
and I think that's what I heard. That's what makes it a nice compliment, because it helps speed up that process, because like you said, you're getting that energy, which is, I guess the blood flows a lot easier then, right?
Well, you could say that, but the energy flows a lot easier, and the energy is what brings that life force and helps then the cells do the healing.
Right.
So then we can also do emotional healing. So people that have stress, they have anxiety, even, addictions. We work with people with addictions, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, smoking addiction, those kinds of things. And those kinds of energies are a little different than the physical ones.
Right. Now how do you go about helping somebody, say they have an addiction, say it's a drug addiction.
Right.
How does that, how do you get in there and do that?
Well, so first of all, there has to be a desire to be relieved of the addiction. If they don't really want to be done with the addiction, then it's not as successful, right? But if they want, so there's certain energy elements that like certain things. So like for smoking addiction, there's smoking ones. For alcohol addiction, there's alcohol ones. For drug addiction, there's drug ones. And the drugs are very damaging to the energy body. So when people see things or hear things because of the drugs, it's because certain protecting parts in the body have been damaged by the drugs. So we go in and we remove those things, and we seal up the places that were damaged, and then we support the person, and then they need to be in some kind of rehab if they're doing drugs. If they're doing smoking, we've had people like in 2 times just be done with smoking, even when they're smoking a pack a day. It just depends on their will, right? If they want.
You have to really want it.
So we're able to help with those. We can help with depression. Depression, it can be caused by like winter, right? Not enough sunlight, or by thoughts, that go round and round and round and cause you to feel kind of low.
Right.
So we can help remove some of those thought forms, because everything we think is energy, right? So if you think a happy thought, you put out happy energy. If you think negative thoughts, you put those out. And then eventually, if they cluster around you and you keep feeding them, then eventually they start impacting on you too.
Right.
So you probably worked in a place before or been in places before where you just feel stressed walking in there.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just filled with stress energy, right? So that's a good example of how that is. So we can just remove those energies, and then it helps again restore the body, and then the person can make different choices than what they think easier.
Okay. So and again, we're talking with our guest, of course, Sybil Baker, who's comprehensivevitality.com, the website that you can go to and find out more about what she does. You can also give her a call direct at 614-580-8218. Let me ask you this now, because I have been on your website, because we've talked before.
And we have, yes.
This is the first face-to-face time.
Yeah.
But you've got like and I went on, quote unquote, the services link.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, there's like a long list of the things that you have, I guess, since you left nursing, you've been able to kind of add to your tool belt in terms of how you can help people.
Right.
Now, with one of those, I believe, because I have a bunch of them printed out here. The one that I want to make sure we get to, the muscle release therapy, because I think that's the biggest one. I think you said that one has been really a game changer.
It has
for
been,
you,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, I just had a guy yesterday in my office. He came in, and when he was a teenager, he'd fallen off his bike and hit his shoulder on a fire hydrant. And he said he didn't want to tell his parents. So he didn't tell them for 6 months, but it really hurt him.
Right.
And now his body's in the 40s, and he can't raise his arm and move it. So he came in, and yesterday when he left, he could move his arm.
Really?
And it was just so amazing to him that he could do. But what happens in the body, so we get an injury like that, right? So something happened, and because it didn't fix itself, then he was using his arm the best he could in another way.
Right.
And then over the decades, we just keep using it that way, or something else happens, and then you get a compensated compensation, and eventually you're like got old person disease, but it's really because of all these compensations.
Right.
So that technique, the marvel of that technique, is that you can connect the muscles that are supposed to work together and engage the brain, because the brain, the brain's like, if you had somebody you were talking to and they just quit talking to you, eventually you'd quit talking to them.
You mean quit talking to me because they didn't like me anymore?
Well, just because they not even anything like that. They just didn't respond anymore.
Oh, okay.
Right? So if the brain's talking to a muscle and says contract, and the muscle just doesn't do it,
right,
eventually the brain will find somebody who will do the work, because the body has to keep moving.
Got
you
it.
have to bend your arm. And if the muscle that does it isn't doing it, then we'll find somebody who will, right?
It'll recruit a different set of muscles that maybe shouldn't be doing it.
Well, that's not their job description,
Right,
let's say, right?
Yeah.
So over time, then that muscle might complain, because it's like, hey, I didn't sign up for this job, and now I've been doing it now for 10 years. What's the deal? So then you might come in for pain, right? And so what this does is it connects the muscles that are supposed to work together, and then it engages the brain so that the communication's reestablished. And then it's like a reset button, so it resets it, so it starts working again.
So take me through what you did with the guy with the shoulder, because that to me is, I'm sure there are plenty of people that have things like that that they do. Like I know, like for me on my left side, my shoulder, it sits off a little bit. Why? I was in a bike crash about 10 years ago, right? Separated my shoulder, but it wasn't enough for surgery. And the doctor was like, look, it's going to look a little weird. You might feel twinges here and there, but it's not. You don't have to do surgery unless you want to repair the way it looks. That would be the major benefit.
You need to come see me.
So now, so the body, to your example, sometimes when I'm like, say I'm shoveling, I'll be like, ooh, this feels a little weak.
Right.
But now with the guy with the shoulder that you had, so what were you able to, like, how did you grab his shoulder and no.
That would not be what I would do.
Right.
No.
What would the procedure
So
like
the first thing you need to do, our body starts from the feet. When you stand up, the first thing that determines how you stand is your feet, right? So I just check. I check the pelvis, I check the legs, I check the alignment of the muscles in the legs, make sure everything's lined up and working properly. That's where I first start. And then your back and your legs also have to work together for you to bend over, to squat, to do those kinds of things. And then your back also influences your shoulder and your neck and all those things. So I just systematically check through those things and notice what I notice, right? In his case, the shoulder had been for 30 or so years, not working properly. So whenever he moved his arm, he was using his neck. So he had lots of
okay.
stiffness in his neck, but it was because of all of the troubles that he had through to the arm. And it was very, very interesting for both of us as I was balancing the shoulder and then on through the arm, how the whole neck just released, just from the arm.
Right.
And you would think you'd have to be on the neck to release the neck, but in his case, it was not the neck that was holding his neck.
And when something like that happens, like that release that you mentioned, was that something where all of a sudden he felt like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like,
he said, "Oh, that just feels wonderful," is what he said. You know, as the tension was releasing, he just said, "Oh, that just feels wonderful."
Right.
And then when his arm went way up above his head, he goes, "My arm hasn't moved like that since I was a teenager."
Right.
You know, and when he got up, you know, you could just see his eyes thinking, you know, his brain thinking through his eyes. Man,
I can't believe I can do this.
that's right. It seems impossible because it'd been so long, right? The body is amazing in its ability to heal and to reestablish itself. Sometimes it just needs guidance, or it just needs, you know, to reconnect itself.
Right. So now I'm sure you're going to see him in the pool soon, backstroking like crazy, because now he can move
I don't
on.
know if he does the pool, but hopefully he'll text me tomorrow and tell me how he's progressed for
that's
2
good.
days.
Yeah. Now, with something like that, because it was an injury that he had for so long, or I should say it was an issue that he had for so long, what are the chances of a reoccurrence?
Well, theoretically, if you fix the problem and it's not a repetitive motion problem, it's done.
Really? Okay. Well, that's good. So that means one and done, hopefully, in his case. That's great.
It might take a couple of times. We'll just see. We'll see how much he got,
Right.
and then how much it stays. Sometimes it takes a couple of times, but it's amazing. It's just amazing.
It sounds like it, because I know we've talked about it before, and you've just, you've gushed over it. Like, when you found it, you're like, oh my goodness.
I know.
You know, there are so many things I can do with
Well, you know how
this.
good it feels to see somebody suffer and then not have them suffer anymore? I mean, that's just like, that's great.
Yeah.
So,
That's great. And
I mean,
now-
that's what I'm about, helping people be done with suffering, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, it started early on in your life because
Yeah.
you were a nurse for so long.
Yeah.
You know. Now, what about someone that, you know, maybe they're getting on in years, they're retirees, you know, closing in on 75, 80, whatever, what have you, and we all know what happens to people. You know, they start to shrink. You know, my mom, I can put her in my pocket now.
Poor mom.
Hopefully she's not watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, they start to, you know, it's almost like they start to crunch downwards. And is that something that you can help them regain some of their mobility back?
It depends, but
Okay.
yes. It depends, right? Like I had a guy, he's in his 80s. He came to see me, he was having a lot of troubles. And I don't know how it happened, but he had a ton of pain in his hips and in his pelvic area, right? And I think I worked on him 6 times. And each time the pain got less and less and less. Like he couldn't lay in bed at night because it hurt. And the last time he came in to see me, no pain.
No pain.
Yeah. Which he's had for a while, right?
So what took him so long?
Well, it's belief, right? People think if my body gets older, I'm supposed to have pain.
Right.
If my body gets older, it's supposed to stop working,
Right.
or not working as well, or working with pain, right? So it's just a belief that we get in society because, first of all, we don't pay attention to the pain, and we don't do anything about it. When we're young, we're like,
Oh yeah.
nothing's going to faze me, right?
Yeah.
And so then eventually you get this thing that it's been hanging around for a while, and then you're like, oh man, this is getting worse. Maybe I should do something about it,
Right.
but I don't know what. And then eventually it gets so you can't walk, or you can't stand, or you can't sit. or you
Yeah, and a
can't
lot
lay
of times
down.
it leads people to go to the doctors.
That's right.
They get the pain meds.
Or you get
they work for a
surgery.
little while,
Yeah.
but then they need a little more. They have to up the dosage because the body adjusts, right? And next thing you know, it's a vicious cycle. And they never really address the problem that's causing the pain.
Right. Yeah, sometimes it's not that way. I mean, a lot of joint issues are just compensated compensations that over time take out the joint space. And so then instead of the nice fluid space, you got bone on bone.
Right.
And then you wear off the cartilage. And then, I mean, my belief is that we can regenerate that.
Right.
But
Now, can you do that for people with arthritis? Does the muscle release therapy help with that?
it'll help reset it and open that joint space
Really?
again. Right.
Wow.
And then with the pranic healing, hopefully we regenerate it.
Wow,
So,
look at you.
yeah.
Look at you. You kind of got this glimmer in your eye like, I can do it. I can.
Well, I don't I can't guarantee that, but the potential exists. And we've seen so many amazing things that let's try this.
Right.
Before you put another scar in your body, let's try this. You know, give it a try anyways. Let your body's natural healing ability, see what we can do with it. See how we can support it.
Yeah, because, you know, I've heard people say that, you know what, the body heals itself. It's like you get a cut, you don't have to put a Band-Aid on it. The body will heal itself. It'll take care of itself. The cut will be gone in a couple days. All of a sudden, it'll scab up, and then you pick the scab, and you know, and then you're
Heal
done.
by secondary intention, yes.
So the body does have that. It's one of those main functions that it does. It takes care of itself. You know, so there is a lot of, you know, I guess, truth to what you're saying. That, you know what, these things can help you and help you heal.
The challenge, though, is we live in a society that has a lot of toxins. So the air we breathe, the water we drink, the earth that we stand on and live on, right, has a lot of toxins. So even though our body regenerates itself at intervals, the toxic load is pretty high.
Right.
So sometimes it can't keep ahead.
Right. Now, talk to me about, because you mentioned, I guess a couple of years back, you kind of went back into the hospital, right? For a short
so
time?
I decided I wanted some diversion, right? Because I'd been in the hospital so long and I'd been out for a while. So a friend of mine told me there was a research position open, and I'm always curious to learn and always curious to. So I went back into the hospital and was working on a research grant with the American Heart Association. And my subjects for the research were the staff in the heart hospital.
Okay.
And so I spent a lot of time on all the units, the ORs, all the units, all the nursing floors, trying to get my subjects to come and do their research, right? So those are all hours, day and night and day, weekends, all kinds of things. And the thing that I learned there that surprised me most was just how much people have allowed themselves to give their power over to someone besides themselves, and allow their bodies to get into such a state of disarray that most of those units were like critical care units, right? And people were in such terrible, vulnerable states that each of the nurses was like taking care of an intensive care person just in the patient room, right? That was just shocking to me that there was so many people. And if you look at the aging of the population, so all the baby boomers are now coming into those ages. And so if all of those baby boomers allow themselves to be so broken down by not taking care of themselves, the healthcare system is going to have a huge burden that it may or may not be able to support.
Right.
I mean, that was my aha that I got there. And so then when I left that job, which was interestingly to be a part-time job and ended up being quite full-time, my practice on the outside, my massage practice, had sort of dwindled to like 3 patients.
Right.
So, you know, I took a look at that and I said, okay, well, what do I want to do? Do I want to go back to what I did before, or do I want something different? And I thought, you know, this is a much bigger situation than I had before really been aware of. And I said, I want to do something different. I want to make a bigger impact, a bigger footprint, a bigger service to humankind, to help empower them to regain their health and support them through their lifetime. Now, the challenge that I really haven't solved yet is awareness. So how do you get people aware that that is an option, first of all, or that they might want to do that?
Well, I think that's part of the old school of thinking, you know, and again, I'll reference my mom. I hope she's not watching.
She's in your pocket, watch out.
Yeah, exactly. Mom, don't listen. Is that old school of thinking, is you go to the doctor knows. What do you know kind of thing. What the doctor says, I do, and they almost, like you said, they give up their power. They don't ask questions. They just take whatever the doctor says. It must be true. He's the doctor or she's the doctor. That's what I'm supposed to do. So I'm going to take this medicine, even though it's got 87 different side effects. Don't worry, he'll give me another medicine to take care of 64 of those side effects, and then another medicine. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things that I feel like generationally, I think that's probably where that comes from. And as we, you know, as people like us who have kind of you know, seen our parents and grandparents go through that, we're probably like, I don't think we have to do that anymore. I think, like you said, you know, taking that power back, being able to ask questions, go get that second and third opinion, look for different ways to, you know, take care of yourself and address the problem before, the small termite hole becomes, the whole house implodes on
That's
itself.
right, that's right. I think there's a lot more consciousness out there, if you look back, even 10 or more years ago, the JAMA reported on how many people are paying out of pocket for natural remedies that before. And I think if you look at the medical colleges and nursing colleges, there's more awareness and more programs now for people to incorporate more integrative therapies into medical therapies. And I think that's a great and wonderful thing. But like you said, people who were born before penicillin, people who were born before the advent of modern medicine, the doctor did become God, sort of, in a way, and sort of you did listen to that.
Right.
But I think there's an awakening now. In fact, I was talking to a 20-something in my office, and she said she thinks that generation of people is now awake to this and is looking for this, which is good news, which is really good news, right? But the boomers are the ones that I think are going to be a burden on the healthcare system for that reason.
Right.
So, but yeah, I think the awareness is coming, and I see that more and more people that come into my practice are looking for alternatives, not just for medicine.
So now, when you talk about, I think you mentioned, did you say the word supplement? What did you just say regarding
complement?
Excuse me?
Compliment is what I said.
No, in terms of like products that you would suggest, oh, you know what, try something like this, a natural product, as opposed to, the doctor saying, take this,
Well, people do look for natural remedies, right?
Right.
Right. So
is there anything in particular that you think, okay, these work great, I found great success with these kind of things?
What I like to incorporate in my practice is essential oils.
Okay.
Right? So I like those. The chemistry of essential oils is fantastic. I was sort of mildly interested in them. They kept boinking themselves on me. But once I studied the organic chemistry of them, I was very, very excited about that. When I took organic chemistry in college, I wasn't so excited. But when I studied it again with essential oils, it was really amazing. How the chemistry of the essential oil actually can go in. It can work at that level of the DNA. It can take out errors. It can recode. It can work against viruses and bacteria and those kinds of things. And really, the beauty of essential oils is that every plant you harvest for that oil has a little different water, a little different sunlight, a little different condition in the soil. And so every time that oil is made, the constituents of it are a little bit different. So it makes it harder for bacteria and viruses to build a resistance against it, like our synthetic drugs have consistency. So it's easier over time to do that.
Right. Now, in terms of essential oils, are there particular ones that you favor? Like you found, okay, you know what, this company makes some great stuff, or this company, and are those available on your website?
Yeah. Well, yes and no.
Or at least is the information there?
So what I would like to say is that if you're going to choose essential oils, just be thoughtful about it. So look at them. You want to look at them, make sure that the company that you choose, and there's more than one good company out there, that the company makes sure that what you have in there is natural. And so some companies take compounds and chemically alter them to make a different constituent. Say, like, if you were going to have lemon oil, they might take one chemical and then run it through organic chemistry sequence and come up with that component, but it's not the natural one, or it might be too much for the natural. So you need to make sure that the company has integrity. You want to make sure there's no pesticides or fungicides or any contaminants in your oil. And you want to make sure that it's not adulterated. So you can adulterate it different ways, either with a synthetic, or you can also adulterate it with putting it with a carrier oil or something like that. So if it's pure, you just want to make sure it's really pure and it doesn't have those things in it.
Right. Now, is that something that you put on, or do you use, I think, what are they called, diffusers? Do you do that too?
You can take them all kinds of different ways. So number one is by aroma.
Okay.
Right. So they're very good for mood alteration. Like some of the oils are very good for elevating the mood.
Right.
And the reason it works so fast is as soon as you take it into the olfactory, it goes immediately to the part of your brain that it is related to the moods. And so it can change your mood instantly just by inhaling it. So you can just do the bottle, you can put it on yourself and smell it, you can use a diffuser. You can also put them on your skin, right? So you can absorb them on the skin. Like I had a client come in yesterday. She said, my stomach is just not working too well. It's got some cramping. So I gave her an oil that's very good for digestion, and we put it on. She put it on before I started the treatment, and she noticed a difference from that, right?
Oh, right away.
Yeah, right away. I've had people with diverticulitis come in with that. We use that oil. I use lymphatic with them. I do some pranic healing with it,
right.
And the pain and discomfort goes away.
That's
so it's very useful, and you can do it at home, and you can make your own regimens to support your body.
Right.
And then most people will say, don't take your oils internally. My position is, if you have a very pure oil, there is a place for some internal taking. It's controversial, but if you're going to inhale the oil, if you're going to put it on your skin, you already took it internally.
Right.
So if you aren't going to take it internally, then you shouldn't breathe it, and you shouldn't put it on your skin. That's my personal opinion about it. So I just say, just be fastidious about the oils, check them out, and if you want to contact me privately, I'll tell you what I use. But but there are good oil companies out there.
Right.
So.
And you're not talking about chugging it.
No.
It's very, from what I understand, very small,
One drop of oil.
One drop
Covers all the cells in your body many times.
Really?
So that's why oils are so powerful, right? So you can just use a small amount. People say, oh, they're expensive, the very pure ones, but they're not. Per drop, they cost pennies, right? And you don't want to put a ton on. You just put one. Yeah,
it's not like walking into Macy's and they start squirting you with the perfume bottle.
No, we probably won't squirt you. But
now I did mention, Sybil, that you're also an author because you have been publishing a book, correct?
It's true, yes.
And tell us what the name of that book is.
It's called Journeys to Success.
Okay.
And it's the Health, Wellness, and Physical Fitness edition. So it's volume 6.
Okay. And how did you get involved in something like this? Because I guess it's a collaborative book, right? With many authors?
Yes, there's I think 19 or 20 authors in the book, right? Well, I was in just a mastermind group, and the leader said, well, they're looking for some health and wellness people to work in this book. Would you be interested? So I applied, and I got the job. So I wrote it up, and I got in it. It was very good.
And what's
right
your
place,
chapter
right time.
about?
Comprehensive vitality. So it's a chapter about the different modalities, 5 different modalities that I use. I picked 5, and some of my success stories from it. Some of the people that really had amazing results.
Right.
So.
And where can people find this book? Is it like
it's on Amazon? Yeah, Amazon.com.
And give us the name again.
Journeys to Success.
Journeys to Success. You can
Volume
find
6.
Sybil Baker. She is Volume 6, but you're Chapter 8, right?
Chapter 8, I am.
Chapter 8 she is, and you can read about Sybil, what she contributes to the book. Of course, it's on Amazon.com. And again, the name?
Journeys to Success.
Journeys to Success. You'll find it, definitely. Again, comprehensivevitality.com is Sybil's website. If you want to find out more about her, what she does, how she can help you, you can also give her a call directly, 614-580-8218. You mentioned you cover 5 different modalities in the chapter, right? What are some of the ones that we haven't talked about yet? Because like I said, on your website, when you click on services, whoa, it's a big list. You do a lot of stuff. It's almost like you got a holster there, and you can be like, I can use this, I can use this, I can use that.
Well, it's an integrated approach, right? So you come in with your shoulder.
Okay.
What do you need?
I don't know. You tell me.
Right? So I have to do an assessment.
Right.
So I talk to you first.
Okay.
I find out what happened, how long's it been, what have you tried, what worked, what didn't work, when does it hurt, all those kinds of things. And then when I assess your body, and see how things are balanced and things like that, then I know. So if I might use muscle release technique.
Right.
Maybe it needs lymphatic, right?
Okay.
Maybe you need craniosacral.
Okay.
Maybe you need energy healing, which energy healing I actually integrate into most everything I do.
Okay.
So it just depends, right? So I just have this toolbox, and then depending on what you need, I pull it out.
Right. So now explain what craniosacral is.
So craniosacral is a technique. A lot of people actually know about it, but it simple terms. There's your cranium, and then there's your sacrum, which is the triangular bone in your pelvis in the back, right between your hips, right? So those bones, your sphenoid here and your sacrum there, work together. So they should move like this. If you have an injury, maybe one doesn't move and the other one tries to, but it can't. This bone's connected to every one of your bones in your skull, and it's connected to your membrane. So it can cause you to feel irritability. It can cause you to be, it can cause all kinds of interesting things, actually. It can affect how you see. So what that technique does basically is it frees up that bone. That bone should move this way. It should move this way. It should move, how else does it go? It moves this way. It moves this way and this way. Let's get them all. Yeah, so there's different planes that it should move in. It should be free and it should move. Whenever you chew or whenever you swallow, that bone should move. If it's fixed, then you've got stuck something.
Right.
And then between the brain and the sacrum is your spinal cord, right? So there's a membrane that goes on the spinal cord that's called the dural tube. And it inside the, so it's a protective membrane for your spinal cord. And that tube should have flexibility. If it doesn't, if it's rigid, then again, it's like you've got a string tied like this, and then when you try to bend, you try to move, you try to bend your neck, feel a lot of tension in your head and your neck because it won't move. So you want that to have that give, that spring, that elasticity.
Right. So now, when you're doing that type of healing on somebody, what does that look like? I mean, are they laying down? Are you
Most
rubbing
everybody,
the head,
it's better if they lay down because then their body can relax, and then your postural muscles aren't working. Right? So if you're sitting up, something has to keep you up or you fall over. So it's easier if the muscles can just relax. And then you can actually access the muscles and you can move it, allow the body to balance. So it looks different. It looks sort of like nothing.
Right.
I mean, you just sort of lay your hands there and then it's very subtle movements that you use.
And now you can actually feel this stuff going on when you see that's creeping me out a little bit in a cool way. In a cool way, it's almost like oh, I can feel everything. And so what you're doing up here is going to affect all the way down there.
Right, it does. But I also do work down there.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do work with the sacrum and the hips too.
Oh, okay.
But they have to be in balance.
I thought you were just up here, and that was the way you could control.
That would be the cranial part.
It was almost like you're the puppet master. You'd be like, I can make you do anything from right up here.
I will say that since I learned pranic healing, that those techniques are a lot easier.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because a lot of stuff is just stuck energy, right? So if you get rid of the stuck stuff, that's the official term, and put in the fresh prana, things are amazing.
Now, let me ask you, because you're doing all these other things. It all started with massage when you were a nurse, right? And now you're doing a whole laundry list of other things that you can help people with.
Right.
Naturally healing, right? What are your nurse friends and doctor friends? What were they saying at the time when all this was, when you started to do this?
Well, I started sort of outside, but I was doing the energy healing while I was still in nursing.
Right.
So I would go in and I would wave my hand around. And I tried to be very discreet, let's say.
Okay.
But people would still come in and they'd look, and they'd go out to the nurse's station and they go, what's she doing in there? Because if friends would be in the hospital, they'd say, come and do some work on me,
Right.
So I'd go do it. So they, this was 20 years ago, right? So it was kind of new and people, they wondered what I was doing, what was I about. So, but people call me up. I had a lady come in my office this week. She was having shoulder surgery. We did a pre-treatment, and I treated her after surgery to manage the pain and the recovery.
That's great. Now, because you can help people with surgery too, right? What about like pregnancy? Is it effective for women who are about to give birth?
Well, that's an interesting story. There is a protocol to help with birth.
Okay.
And I don't have a lot of research with that. Because when I was doing labor and delivery, I didn't know pranic healing.
Right.
But I did have a client who wanted me to come in with her in labor. So we did the technique, and I did the technique twice. When she was 5 centimeters, and she went to 10 and delivery of an almost 10-pound baby in 2.5 hours.
Wow.
Now, my experience in labor and delivery didn't go that fast, right? So it was amazing. Now, she could be just one of those people that delivers fast anyways. I mean, I would love to research that, but that's not my arena right now.
Right.
So that was really cool. So that's the one, labor and delivery. And then you can use it for postpartum to help get everything back in normal. Back to normal, after delivery.
Now, what about people that suffer from lower back pain? Because from what I understand, most lower back pain isn't from, bending over to pick up a cinder block. It comes from other things, right?
It could be. It just depends. It could be picking up the cinder block. Energetically speaking, it can come from stress, right? Because the energy can stack up in the solar plexus and then push down into the lower back, and you can get it there. Lower back pain could be, again, different things. I get a lot of lower back pain comes in, and the first place I look is the feet. So if the feet aren't, so say your foot is like this, but it's really working like that, so then you don't have that center, right? Or your hamstrings are only working on the side, they're not working straight on. Or your quads aren't working straight on, they're working kind of rotated too. Or maybe your alignment's just somehow off, or something's stuck, right? Maybe all the bones, like in the foot, you have articulations here, just like you do in your hand. Maybe some of those aren't working right. So then that puts stiffness up through, right? And so then over time, the body's supposed to rotate and move, and if you've got that one stiffness, then it's always going to be making that muscle do something different, or not letting it function the way it's supposed to. So it just depends. I just have to go look. But I always start at the feet.
Right. Okay, well that's interesting. So a lot of problems could be just from, you can tell just by looking at, like, take off your stanky socks and let's take a look at them feet.
You don't even have to take off the socks, just
Really?
the shoes, just the shoes.
So is this something where you have to have them up on a table to see their feet, like laying flat like this?
I prefer that.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have to bend my back.
Right.
So with their feet up, then I have them sort of at the level, and I can assess all their balance.
And from there, you can say, okay, I see this. I see what the potential problem there could be. Very interesting stuff.
Yeah, we just balance it.
And how does balancing? How does the balancing work? Are you actually pulling their foot, or
no? I don't do any pulling. Okay, so one of the things that is very important. Okay, so in the body there's 5 diaphragms. So you have the cranial diaphragm, which we talked about. You have the thoracic, or the one at the throat. Then you have the respiratory one. You have a pelvic diaphragm, and then there's one that most people don't know. It's in the foot. The body is full of fluid, right? So when the body is like a hydraulic system. So the hydraulics will compress and they'll expand.
Right.
So in the spine especially, if you get compression, but you never get expansion, then it predisposes you to having some kind of disc something, right? So the way to do that is the foot.
Okay.
The foot diaphragm. If it's not working properly, then you don't ever get the decompression. So it's very, very simple. So I put one hand behind the knee, one hand on the foot, and I wait till it moves.
And that's it?
That's how easy it is.
And it's funny too, because you described some of what you do is like, that was like a lot of nothing, but it worked.
Yes, but it is really nothing, but it's something, because you just have to access the body, and then the body puts it all together in response. Right.
Because, a lot of people will know chiropractic. Oh, well, that's a lot. They're turning you, they're twisting you, you're hearing pops and cracks and all this stuff. But compared to, comparing that to what you do, yeah, it's like, well, she didn't really do that much, but I feel a whole lot better.
Well, sometimes we get adjustments, because soft tissue and hard tissue is related, right? So I have one client, she comes to me and then she goes to the chiropractor.
Oh, really?
She says, I soften her up so the chiropractor can do his work.
So it doesn't hurt as much.
Yeah, well, so he can actually do it because her muscles are so tight that you can't get the bony manipulations if the muscles are too tight.
Right.
So there's always that chicken and egg thing. Is it better to get the bones moved and then do the soft tissue, or get the soft tissue soft and then move the bones?
And what do you think is the best?
I don't know. It just depends, case to case. Yeah.
All right. Now you also do, I believe, lymphatic?
Yeah, that's one of the stories I tell in the book, lymphatic. So the lymphatic system is a fluid system.
Okay.
It parallels the venous system, and so the blood system. And it also doesn't have a pump, right? So you have to walk or breathe or something to get to move. But it is a valved system. So what happens in the body is the blood goes out, and then the blood gets in these tiny little capillary beds, which are like if you went to Louisiana, in the bayou down there. So it goes out, and then that blood has oxygen and nutrients in it.
Right.
And it gets close to the cells, and then the cell wall exchanges that oxygen for carbon dioxide, and it exchanges its waste products for the nutrition, right? So as it goes into that kind of bed, then it has to find its way back into the capillaries on the other side to get returned to the bloodstream. And 1 to 2 liters of fluid a day don't make it. Okay, so the lymphatic system picks that up and returns it to the blood system.
Okay.
It also is very important for our immune system. So it filters the blood and cleans the blood. And it also carries all our dietary fat.
Right.
So it's a very important system. If it gets stopped, which it can be stopped by trauma, by surgery, even emotional trauma can stop it.
Okay.
And then that area won't be perfused. And the story I tell in the book, there's a couple of them, I think, but there's a young man who had his feet almost amputated in an accident.
Oh, wow.
And he came to me about 9 months after the accident, and his skin on his legs, so he had plates and screws and all kinds of things because his feet were almost amputated, and And the skin was open. It wasn't healed up.
Right.
You know, he had to walk with 2 canes, and he was like in his 20s, right? College kid. And so he came to me, his physical therapist called and said, can you please help him? And so he came in, and so I just did lymphatic. And very gently, we got the areas that were no longer being perfused by the lymph system to start working again, and the skin came together, and it all healed up.
Right.
And he didn't need his cane, he could walk normally. And one of the last sessions that I worked with him, he sat up, because I'm working on his feet and his legs. And he said, you know, I didn't come here for you to work on my legs.
Right.
Well, that was a surprise to me, because that's all he told me about, and that's all the physical therapist told me about. I said, you didn't? Why did you come? And he said, well, I just came for you to do some work on my shoulders and my neck and help me relax. He said, because it's so stressful
Right.
to have my legs like that. And he said, you've given me my legs back.
That's great.
It's a great story, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
But so the lymph is very, very powerful. It's very subtle, and it's very easily disrupted. So if you take your finger and push down on your skin, you'll stop your lymph. So it's very superficial. So if you're going to do your own lymph, you just lightly, it's like you pet your arm and it helps move
Right.
it. But people with surgery, sometimes they get lymph backed up below the scar. So I worked with people that had swollen limbs or swollen places. You just release it and allow it to flow again,
Right.
and all that goes away.
And now, is this something you teach people as well?
I'm not certified to teach that,
Okay.
no.
All right.
I can teach you how to do some simple things for yourself.
Right.
But I don't teach the class.
All right, because stuff like that, where you're talking about, he comes to you just because he wants release of tension, in his shoulders, and you're able to give him his feedback. That's he's probably dancing every single day that
I didn't
he can.
ever see him dance, but he did throw away his sticks.
That's great.
And he was very happy.
That's awesome.
So.
Did he come in and say, look what I can do, kind of thing?
No, every time when he would come, he'd lose one stick, and then eventually he lost both
Oh,
sticks.
wow,
So.
that's great. And again, that's something that, because you said he was referred to you by a physical therapist.
Yeah.
So there is, there's that working relationship that, the people on the Western medicine side are going, there's a limit to what I can do, and now there's other options, and it's great that they're looking to other options to help the people that they're working with.
I think we have to. I think we have to be collaborative. We have to say, okay, here's this whole person.
Right.
What do they need? Is that in my wheelhouse? No, that's not my wheelhouse.
Right.
But it's in this person's wheelhouse, so go see this person for that.
Right.
I think we need to develop those networks of healthcare professionals that can help people with all these different things.
Yeah, and especially if you've got people that are, doctors and physical therapists who are, okay, we can only get you to a certain point. If you want to try this, and that also lends to your credibility, because here comes this person who they've been working with. Now they trust.
Yeah.
They trust their surgeon. They trust their doctor. They trust their physical therapist. They're like, look, you can try this. And it's all there's no side effects, right?
To what? Lymphatic?
To anything.
Well, it depends. Again, it depends, right? So say I had a lady come to me some time ago, and she had been taking a lot of medications. So she had a lot of toxins in her body, right? So she wanted to detox all that stuff.
Right.
So if I would do a whole body treatment on her, it would make her sick.
Right.
So in those cases, then you have to take the information you get, and you have to say, okay, well, we need to just do some, and then we'll see how that goes.
Right.
And then we'll do some more, and sort of just build it into releasing all of it, because too much, too much is too much.
Yeah, it's almost like going cold turkey. Cold turkey usually doesn't work for most people.
Yeah.
So
you just don't want to overwhelm the body. You want to support the body and help it, but you don't want to overwhelm it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Again, we're talking with our guest, Sybil Baker. She was kind enough to come into the studio and join us, so thank you for that. We appreciate it. Of course, she's an internationally known best-selling author. What's the name of the book again?
It's called Journeys to Success.
Journeys to Success. You can find that on Amazon. She's also a registered nurse. She's kind of left that in the past, though.
But I use it all the time.
But she uses it all the time. She uses that knowledge. Licensed massage therapist, certified pranic healer as well. Go to the website, comprehensivevitality.com. That's comprehensivevitality.com. Or give her a call, 614-580-8218, so you can find out how Sybil can help you in terms of your healing. There's all different natural ways that she can help. She can recommend what are they called? Essential oils that might do the trick. And of course, you know, the energy, the whole. She's loaded. She can just be like, here, I can do this, I can do that, I can do that.
Well, we make a plan, right? So the important thing is that you just listen to the person and find out what the trouble is,
Right.
and then what their goals are, right? Certain people have certain goals. Some people don't think they can reach the goals because
Right.
they've given up hope, but that's a cool thing too, to give people hope again. But listen to people and try to say, okay, so what are your goals, and how can we move through a plan to get you to those goals? So it's not random.
Right, but I mean, in terms of the arsenal of which you can use to help them.
Right.
You can use just about anything to.
Yeah, we
to
got a
get,
good toolbox.
Right.
We do.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you know, the guy with the feet. You know,
Yeah.
that's an example right there. What you were talking about.
Yeah.
You were listening to him. But he didn't. I guess he didn't articulate he wanted to get rid of the stress.
You know, he says, look, here's what I have. I'm like,
Right.
okay, let's see what we can do.
You probably thought, well, she can read my mind and know that I'm stressed out over this.
Yeah, I don't know. Somehow all the communication was about the legs.
Right.
And
But
not
you know
about
what? I
the-
bet you it relieved the stress.
Oh, yes, of course. Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine if you're 20-something and you can't walk.
And now
And
you
you have
can
all
walk
that
again.
facing you, and then now you can again. I
Yeah.
mean, life-changing.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it. Again,
Yeah.
Sybil Baker. Find her online, comprehensivevitality.com or 614-580-8218. And thank you once again for joining us. We
Oh, you're
appreciate
so
it.
welcome. Thank you, Rick.
All right.